Hello and welcome to the world of Craig and to my second haircutting tutorial, this timeless, chic razor cut bob. I've always felt that razors were seriously underrated as a haircutting tool, and I wanted to put this tutorial together so that whether you're an experienced hairdresser or you're new to the industry, you could follow along and create this classic look. First up, let's meet my gorgeous model, Lydia. Now, they are a pivot point training head, and in my opinion, they're the best mannequin heads that you can buy. I will link them down below in the description box, along with my Casio razor. I absolutely love this razor. I've probably had this one for 25 years, and yes, they are a blade, so they must be respected, but they are such great quality. And of course, we need some water to spray Lydia down before we start cutting. As with any hair cutting, clean sectioning is important. So here I've taken a center part and then I've taken a section at the back, which is about an inch deep, and clipped all the rest of the hair well out of the way. It's always best to work with a sharp blade when razor cutting. So I changed mine out and got into my first section. I take the center of that section, getting the rest of the hair out the way, and gently graze the surface to remove the length. I'm not elevating the section and I'm not using any tension. I'm just gently grazing over the surface with my razor. Now, I want to make a point here that you don't need to create a really straight line. Yes, I'm creating a shape, and you'll see that in a second, a very soft U shape. And I'm just going back over that guideline to make sure that I'm very happy with it, because this is the crux of the whole haircut. There's that U shape, and then when you're happy with that, it's time to take your next sections to start creating that graduated shape. Depending on the texture of the hair you're working on, your next section can be about 3 inches in depth, and you want your guideline to mirror that of the guideline you've cut in the nape of the neck. These sections can be quite deep because you're working with a razor and you're going to elevate them to start graduating. Starting in the center back again and working to a 45-degree angle, I gently graze the hair with the razor to remove the length and create that shape. I take off the top of the section and then I go back in again to connect that section to my guideline. So really you're just following a 45-degree angle and letting the razor do the work for you. Once that section is connected in and you're happy with it, you basically have your guidelines for the entire rest of the haircut. But I wanted to mention here that this isn't about everything being exacto precise. This is a razor cut at the end of the day, and there should be texture because that is why you're using the razor. On to my next section, and I want this section to be the same length as my previous one. So I'm making sure I take my guideline to that section, lots of sections, and I'm gently grazing the hair again with the razor, letting it do the work and connecting it in to the guideline and the baseline. With 2 sections down, it's now time to start building up some weight. So I'm over-directing my 3rd section into my 2nd section. Over-direction retains weight and length. So I don't want to take my guideline to my section anymore, but I'm dragging the section back very slightly by about ½ an inch into my previous section. This creates, like I've said, that weight line and gives you that really classical graduated shape, but here with texture because we're using the razor. As I work, you'll notice that I'm checking the balance of each section by combing it down and making sure I'm happy with where it's sitting and how much weight there is in that section. The great thing about using a razor, it is actually a very fast, speedy way to cut hair, but you want to eyeball things and just make sure you're happy. Here's that U shape again and that whole side completed before I move on to the next. So after repeating those steps on the back right-hand side panel, I work left to right, but you might want to work right to left. I want to check where the balance is to see that I'm happy with the graduation and where it's sitting. Just to mention my comb here, I use a comb that has both fine teeth and wider teeth, and I love this for razor cutting. It's great because it really helps with using no tension. Moving on, let's take our next sections and get on with that top back. With this final back section, you want to make sure that you're not taking any hair from above the ear. This makes sure that there'll be no hole or gap when you come onto the sides. You take that center back section again and continuing on with that 45-degree angle, you're going to gently, with no tension, remember, take off that top section of hair. You can see here very clearly how that graduated shape is beginning to evolve. Remembering that the next section that you elevate has the guideline taken to it. And then the section after this is over directed slightly into your guideline section. Here you can see you're building up that weight again and creating that bob shape. It does seem very complicated when I explain it, but it's actually very simple if you watch this over a couple of times. Here you can clearly see that shine line creating that graduated shape before you move onto the sides. As I'd already decided I want the result to be quite classical, I'm keeping the sides quite square. I take my first guideline section and I'm going to use the wide tooth side of my comb. This ensures I won't be using any tension. Then again, I take that length off and make sure I'm happy with the length before moving on. Then I take my next section down and then I'm going to elevate that and over direct it back at that 45-degree angle into my last back section. It's really simple. I'm elevating all the time to that angle and then just making sure that I follow my guideline from the back. So if you've not used a razor before, you might feel a little overwhelmed at removing hair in this manner. If you're at all unsure and you're uncertain of how far to over direct, simply drag the hair back a little bit further. This gives you, as you can see here, some extra length to play with. I then went in and removed that extra length to keep the sides of the haircut square. And that's it. It really is that simple. Of course, you can play about with the angles, making them steeper to remove more weight or making them deeper to keep more weight. You can add more texture with the razor for a more textured, shattered look, but my own personal preference is for something that's classical like this. But you can take these techniques and make them all your own. Now I'd better cut the other side of Lydia's hair. Whilst going through and repeating what you did on the opposite side, you just want to make sure you're happy with the length on both sides before you go in with that top section, over directing it back, removing length and creating shape at the same time. And now is the perfect opportunity to say that if you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, you know exactly what to do. There are loads more videos here on my channel, including another razor cutting tutorial. Oh yes, there's more hair cutting. And would you like to see more here on my channel? Please let me know in the comments down below. And remember, you leave a comment, I will always reply. Lastly, just to say, please don't be sleeping on your razor. It's such a fantastic tool to have in your kit and you can create so many great looks with it. Okay. Let's have a look. I'm going to leave you with Lydia's final results. A huge thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.